I'm going to be talking to the wonderful Jane Cunningham, known as British Beauty Blogger. Most of you will know Jane, but for those of you that don't, Jane Cunningham used to write for print until founding her own site, the British Beauty Blogger, over 12 years ago. She talks about all aspects of beauty with honest, consumer-focused reviews and challenges perceptions of beauty, particularly how brands message older people. You're an advocate for changing the narrative around how brands message older people and perceptions of beauty. But when you started the British Beauty blog 12 years ago, was that your intention?
No, I didn't set it up for that. I set it up because, you know, there was a lot of the way that I was writing in print that I didn't feel really convinced by myself. And I thought, okay, I mean, I got my blog by accident, really, because I didn't really ever think that I would be able to have the technical knowledge to actually start a blog, but by some miracle or happy accident, I actually did. And then when I started it, when I very, very first started it, I started it anonymously because I couldn't see how I could sort of say all the things that I wanted to say, like, i.e. it's bullshit. I didn't see how I could say that and still actually work. So it was anonymous for a little while. And then I got outed in print by, what was it? Was it WGSN? I think maybe. Yeah, really bizarrely. And then so I just had to go, okay, well, hi, it's me. Sorry about all the horror, sorry, not sorry kind of thing. And then just sort of style it out. And I did continue to work in print. I did continue to write for Metro and the Express and everybody like that for quite a long time afterwards.
So what were you writing about for those different print publications? All just all about beauty. Okay, and then in your blog, you'd be sort of calling stuff out or sort of really speaking really honestly about the different challenges within messaging and so forth. Is that how?
So, well, look, you know, my site is one that gives beauty reviews every day. So what I won't get pulled into in writing is telling people that products will make them look younger or thinner or anything like that. I just won't get pulled into that, because even though I might be reviewing an anti-aging cream, it will not be referred to as such. And I will not talk about words like lines, wrinkles, crow's feet, marionette lines, wattles, jowls, all these filthy, ugly words that have got no place describing a woman's face. I don't use them. So that sort of works against me, because the thing that what brands want to promote generally is fear. And I'm not prepared to do it. I won't do it.
And was there a sort of tipping point where you were really aware of the language that was being used in a narrative that was being perpetuated, and you thought, actually, I feel bad within myself, or you had a sort of particular emotional response to it and thought, actually, I'm not going to be an advocate of this. I'm going to speak out about this language that's used? Because I always think with language, it does create an emotional response in us. You know, the language we use with ourselves and what we absorb, you know?
I know exactly what you're saying, but it was more things like, so, you know, every feature was so formatted. So you would need to find 3 celebrities for every product that you were talking about. So you would say XYZ eyeliner, loved by Catherine Zeta-Jones, da-da-da-da, and da-da-da-da, before you go, and then follow on with a lipstick by so-and-so, loved by da-da-da. And I just thought, this is like, and my brain is dying here. This is really dull. So it wasn't journalism as such. I do far more research now for my own site than I've ever think I've done for print, because it just wasn't needed. It just wasn't needed. But I think it was boring. It was the same. And it wasn't speaking about products in the way that I wanted to. Don't forget, Lee, we'd only really just got Google. And so I was like looking at all these American sites and going, oh my God, this is what the beauty industry looks like around the world. I could see it for the first time, and I had never seen it before. And I could see all these really exciting products, and I could see things just happening. And I could see the emergence of blogs. and how things were just so much more vibrant there. So really, that's when I just thought, yeah, I need to just be able to speak in my own language about things that are interesting and exciting and not necessarily available at Boots, and all the dull stuff, really.
So when you started sort of changing the narrative and the way you were writing on your blog, did you get a very different response from the viewers?
Actually,
was it really noticed by the viewers?
So yeah, but not in the way that you'd expect. So initially, when I started saying, I don't think that I feel comfortable with this language, and I'm not going to use words. I'm not going to do the brand's marketing for them and talk you down to sell you up. That's not what's going to happen here. I got quite a lot of readers saying, oh, for God's sake, stop making such a fuss, and they felt very uncomfortable that reading challenging brands, because they'd held them really in such esteem that they couldn't accept that I was going, they're not that special and they're not always right, and
calling it out.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people didn't like it. They really didn't like it.
It's fascinating because I started when I was at makeup artist. I started in the 90s. Yeah. And we were just saying before this call, my memory is, especially being behind the scenes, the narrative at that time. What I heard was if you looked a certain way, you would be more loved, you would have more opportunity, you would have more money. The language that was used about the models on the set was such that it was almost like you were sort of second-rate citizen if you weren't in that sort of beauty ideal. It was quite extraordinary. Yeah. And, it was so much airbrushing. There was so much sort of manipulation that, really at that time, the consumer didn't know about. I used to see it. No,
you didn't.
And it was sort of very controlled.
You just think these people are just impossibly beautiful. Sure enough, they are impossibly beautiful because they've got, because as you say, airbrushing that we just weren't aware of.
Yeah, and I think, it's that sort of combination of sort of genetics play a part, and I think woven in with, experiences and culture, and that sort of, I think we live in a culture that celebrates image to such a degree. You see billboards, you see film stars, and I think that the messaging, that how it can be damaging is if you bolt it on against, say, you've been brought up with, I don't know, a parent that sort of always sort of praised you if you looked a certain way, if things looked a certain way, that it can be really difficult to sort of not see that beauty as real currency, and that, you think of our parents' generation. Yeah. That they would sort of marry almost, my mum was a bit feisty, but you'd always marry for economic reasons. Yeah. Because it was a currency in a sense. Yeah. And what your sort of thoughts are around the merging of that and how you see the narrative changing now. And do you see it changing enough?
Well, I think actually it's kind of like my generation. So I'm 57, who really had a lot of the how you look is as you say, your currency, and that there was always a big impression to look a certain way. But it was really my family always had these odd little rules, like you can never wear trousers to a funeral if you're a woman, and you would never wear trousers to a wedding, no matter how lovely, and you can't dress that way. So it's very sort of strict in how you had to look, and your hair had to be brushed, and you clean and tidy all the time. And that, I think, that was sort of more prized than beauty. But I think all of us just fall into a narrative of saying, oh, you're so pretty, as the ultimate compliment. And actually, there's so many other things about you. But is the narrative changing? To your question, is it changing? I think it's on the surface, it's changing. So, but you can never get around the true nature of the beauty machine, which is to make money. And they'll use any fair means or foul. They not all that bothered about how they achieve it, because if you think about the layers of beauty brands, there are so many layers, and always at the top, almost always at the top, there's a man in a suit with several yachts and, you know, a home in the Hamptons and so on. There's always that. And no matter, you can't get away from that exists. And they will employ and promote women to a certain point and then no further. Not any further after that, even if they're family. I think it's kind of very interesting that beauty has got stuck in its own it's got stuck up its own arse.
ever the frank narrative.
It literally has. So yes, we are seeing things changing. So I've seen a great campaign by Boots Number 7, who are using all their, or is it just called Number 7 now, I think, who are using all these older women, and everyone looks great and fantastic. But on top of that, they're then saying, yeah, but here's an anti-aging cream for you. So on the one hand, we're embracing you and we want you to be part of our campaign because we're going to talk through the older women, embrace the older women. On the other hand, we still want you to look younger with our anti-aging cream. Ridiculous.
When you think about investing in yourself, in nurturing yourself, where does the line come from? It's not anti-aging, but it's replenishing. It's where does that continuum from facials to maybe you don't call it an anti-aging cream, but it is doing something like it's a retinol and it is doing something to rejuvenate the skin, up to the other end where people are, you know, doing full-on deep plane facelifts. There's a continuum of sort of what we can do to preserve, celebrate. Where does it sit with you between? Yes, there's this sort of, when you're not using the narrative of being invisible as we get older, but you know, how do you kind of, how does it sit with you between using beauty products?
I've got no problem whatsoever with people doing whatever they want with their faces. It's up to them. You know, one person's idea of beauty is not another, thank God, because how homogenized would that be? And I also recognize that people come to their face getting older as they do in very different ways. And there are so many factors to that. There are so many layers and so many factors that we could be here all night unraveling those. I know, but we could. I mean, one of the things I always say is like how loved you feel is, I think, always a big factor in how you then feel about yourself, and then how you project that onto you, how you look, and you know, on and on it goes. So if you have someone at home who thinks you're beautiful and sexy and you're 95, then you're gonna feel beautiful and sexy. Age is irrelevant. But if you never get told that you're appreciated and in that way, then I think you can almost turn in on yourself and then start sort of feeling very negative about yourself. But I think everyone has a different beauty journey. I think you should try all the things if you want to try all the things, but there's hardly any 80-year-olds having Botox and filler, lip filler. You just don't really see it. There comes a certain point, as far as I understand it.
That's interesting. Yes.
You just go, actually, other things are now more important to me than this. So
that is so interesting. Yeah. Because actually I do I live stream. I was saying to you, wasn't I, on another call, I live stream on a sort of membership platform, which is aimed at healthy aging. So every class that's live streamed has some science behind why it's good for you, either cognitively, physically, all the different points. And I have a lot of sort of women on there in their sort of 70s and 80s, and they don't do anything sort of injectable wise, but they do love makeup. And they love to know skin care, and they sort of have almost, you know, I've received all these messages from them sort of saying we're not spoken to in this demographic. And I've learned so much because I lost my way, and I've learned to put a bit of mascara, and I've learned some face massage techniques, and I've learned what skincare is supposed to do, as I was using soap and water because I didn't know any different. And actually I feel like this is sort of something I'm doing that's really fun and nourishing myself. So it was interesting sort of talking to that demographic that we don't really ever sort of hear from because they're not on social media. And their sort of journey with that, you know, because
they still take a lot of their beauty information from print. So
written word, yes.
So you can, you know, depending on what they're seeing there is then going to reflect down to what they feel they can do. But there's nothing really that can be as good as watching someone put their lipstick on Instagram to give you a feel for how that might how you might use that same technique, or how that color might suit you or not, or whatever. I mean, Instagram's very useful in that particular respect, I think.
And so around the terminology of sort of beauty inside out, you know, it's how we feel, which I think sometimes when it's so celebrated, someone's image, that can be a hard journey to travel. And there's this sort of almost the shame around caring too much and hiding what we're doing. I mean, you hear sort of tweakments, people don't talk about it. I mean, Alice Hart Davis is always talking about, why don't people talk about it? You know, because we'll hide it. And I think we hide it because it's got to look like we haven't done anything yet. We're going to say we don't care because I'm not meant to care, but yet I do care. And how can I care less? But I do, you know. So there's this sort of interesting
I think this is part of the aging journey. Is this internal struggle about, you know, you want to be the person who says, no, I don't need anything doing. Yet you are also in that same person. You're the one looking in the mirror in the morning, going, I don't feel like myself because I don't look how I feel. And so that's where I think that things. Filler and Botox and that kind of thing can be really useful in transitioning you through.
That's really interesting, actually. I've never thought of it like transitioning you through, because I think that is so relevant, actually, because I remember when I was younger, ironically, I did more to myself than as I've got older. Which is interesting. And I think that when I was younger, it was more about trying to fit a certain look rather than, as I've got older, sort of just expanding my perception of what my currency might be. You know, what is my what do I find valuable? I don't, you know, I like taking an interest in the exterior. It plays something that's fun, and it's sort of something fun that reflects, you know, it reflects how I'm feeling and different stages of my life. But that's so interesting, sort of thinking, actually, you know, perhaps the less stuff I do now has been because I've done more stuff before and I've sort of transitioned through and just learned as I've gone.
Exactly.
You know,
probably.
You know, and there's sort of even the sort of growing the hair out, you know, because amazing. I just sort of thought, you know, actually, I mean, I'm sort of, you know, near another couple of years. But I thought, actually, I don't want to diet anymore. I want to just see what I think about the narrative we can use with ourselves. And that sort of way that people can be quite critical of themselves when they look in the mirror, for example. And there's sort of narrative around when we put on a beauty, we're concealing something. We're getting rid of something. But how that narrative can change around more of that investment of yourself and replenishing yourself. And what beauty rituals you use and what inner dialogue you use. Are you aware of your inner dialogue when you're applying product to yourself?
Not, funnily enough, not when I'm applying products. When I'm kind of in the zone, I'm just getting on with it and enjoying it, because you're right. You know, there's a lot of the ritual and process around beauty products that's really about self-care, and it's really nice. It's really rewarding. It's sensual. There are many good things, which is why I keep writing about it, because I really feel it's got its place in our lives. 100% it has. No, I don't. I'll tell you the only time when I'm I tend not to take my phone up to bed. I know so it's mad, but I don't, because there's got to be a demarcation line somewhere. There has to be. So phone,
very healthy, Jane.
Yeah, thank you. Phone with all my social media channels stays downstairs, and when I go, I just take my iPad. But when I sometimes take it up in the morning when I've come down and made a cup of tea, and then I sort of think, oh, I'll just do it. I'm in bed, and then I look at myself and I go, Jesus, no, I can't. This is atrocious. So it's more moments like that, really, that I just think, how is it some people just like can take these selfies? Just, I woke up like this. It's like, if you saw what I woke up like, even I don't want to look at that. So
but you see, it's interesting because you add a lot of humour into what you've just said there.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny. You have to laugh.
Yeah, but I think that is a really interesting thing, because we can get caught up if it becomes overly important and becomes a predominant point to our identity. Whereas actually, when we can add a bit of humour in it, and as you quite rightly say, when we can feel a sort of sense of connection and love in our life, and feel that we are getting some of those needs met for connection, for you know, attention, for status, for feeling of value in the community, get those met in a variety of ways, it can ease that journey.
But like we were saying, and don't worry, I won't mention it, we both went to the same press day, and we both, not together, but we both left being unseen, unheard, uncared about,
and complained bitterly.
But it was the most shrinking thing. It's the most shrinking feeling. Like, I don't lose my confidence easily, not at all. But there, I came out of there just thinking, I feel just dreadful about myself. It was probably one of the most, that I can think of recently, just one of the most diminishing experiences I've had. And, you know, I was just, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. So I know what that feeling is. It's not like I can laugh it off every time. I can't, you know, and there are incidences when I know that I am not being chosen for work or that sort of thing because of my age, or because I'm too outspoken, or because they feel like it's just too kind of unpredictable, I suppose. But then my unpredictability is my vitality. It's you know, it's just kind of what I love. It's just who I am.
And it's also sort of that fact that you're outspoken and you have that vitality and you're not afraid to say something and call it out, has almost become what you're known for. You know, what it's an honesty in you. Although that is celebrated, you know.
I think I say things far less than people assume that I do. I don't really. But one of the things that I have done in the past is kind of training with brands and just going, let's sort of look at how you speak to older women. Made no difference whatsoever, but okay, I did it. You know, I did my very best. One of the things that I used was that I had several sealed envelopes, and inside the and whoever sat on the chair with the envelope then had to come up and approach me as I was standing at the front of the room, and I said, just bring your envelope up, open it, and then read it out to me. And it says, Jane, you're too old to be attractive. Or it says, you know, just this kind of derogatory or demeaning, almost unintentionally demeaning ways of speaking about older women. So I made them say it to my face, and they didn't like it. It was very uncomfortable. It was not a nice feeling for them. So I've done that. And then there's also,
that's,
you know, asking questions. One of the other ones was, what's it like when men don't look at you anymore? And, you know, they were like going, they couldn't believe it come out of their mouth. And yet the brand they're working for, their advertising is exactly on that track. It's exactly saying that. But when faced with saying it to an actual person coming out of their mouths, it was a very different thing entirely. So, you know, so I was trying to make the correlation between what you say and the impact that it can have, you know, and it's not your consumer. It's not just a faceless mass of older women. They are actually real people with feelings. And the other thing that I say quite often, which is quite powerful, is like, at what point will you find it acceptable for your daughter to start feeling ugly? Give me the time when that would be. And they can't answer it. They can't give me a time. I go, come on, when she's 3, 7, 12, what, when?
I know.
Nobody's got the answer to that. But one surefire way is that if you criticize your own face all the time, then she will feel ugly from the day that she understands what you can say. So don't do it.
And you know, kids will pick up on what we do, not what we say, you know. And I have to throw my hands up, because when I was younger, I felt quite insecure about the way I looked. And, you know, I wasn't comfortable with it. And I had this sort of messaging almost from my own mum. There was so much currency put on the way you look.
Also.
You know, and she was very glamorous and stuff, but there was a lot of sort of pressure on that. And the language within the family was like, oh, you know, my gorgeous girls, you know, always, and it's, oh, don't you look well, or you look a bit tired, or so it's this sort of thing of sort of needing to sort of look a certain way to be approved of, almost.
I did it to my daughter. I know I did.
And that sort of is then sort of, I see my daughter doing it now, and I'm like, oh God, you know, it's like, I didn't know then, because it was playing out almost below my line of awareness.
Exactly
you know,
that.
And then it's sort of, and then that packed on with the environment, it sort of creates a bit of a cocktail. And also that generation spend a lot of time, too much time online anyway, of these lives as hope, healing and lipstick. What does hope mean to you?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that question. You have to have hope in a small way in your daily life. And whether that's just like as a protective thing, so, you know, don't dream too big, because actually I'm a realist more than anything. So I'm not about to be saying, you know, my hopes and dreams are to be this, that, and the other, when I know it can never be so. So I just have kind of keep my hopes small and comfortable and almost like friend and family related. And that's a really nice zone. So I hope my friends are healthy and happy. I hope my family is healthy and happy. So like, I'd rather focus there, because what do I hope? I'll be chairman of Estee Lauder. It's not going to happen. I can hope forever.
You probably don't want it anyway.
Oh, I'd like 5 minutes.
And what does healing mean to you?
Healing is something that comes from yourself. It comes from yourself, and it will only come to you when you're ready to receive it.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think. Yeah. And that's what your aging journey is like. It's just a load of different stages of healing. So it is.
Love that. It's like healing of sort of old stuff that you release as you get older, old conditioning, old ways of viewing yourself, sort of inventing yourself, new identities, and the acceptance of that journey.
Absolutely.
And lipstick being the metaphor for sort of play and joy. What does that mean to you?
Like, I never used to drink, and now I love drinking.
Didn't expect you to say that.
Well, I didn't expect to say it myself, but here we are. This is how I land in situations. But I do. Like, I'm not a lush. I'm not getting absolutely sausage every night. But I didn't drink for about 30 years. I just didn't. I wasn't interested at all. It was just like a meaningless thing. And now I'm like, yes, I want the wine. I want all the wine. So that to me
brilliant.
still feels fun. It still feels like a fun thing to do. I go to yoga, and I never thought I would do yoga. In fact, I was really scathing about people who did yoga, and now I do it myself. Namaste. And it is all just absolutely bloody
Jane,
love
it's
it.
been an absolute joy talking to you.
Thank
you so much for your insights. It was really interesting to talk to you. And
thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Hope, Healing and Lipstick. And thank you to all of you that joined.
Yes, thank you.
Spending some time with us. I always think, you know, there's lots of places you can be, and I really appreciate you sharing some time with us tonight.